Hey guys, what's up? How are you? Hold on a second. Let me get my things. Hi guys. I haven't been on here and God, it feels like forever, but I think it's been like a week. Thank you guys so much for giving me a little grace. I really try to be very present in this group and I have not been this week, and it is because I have had some personal stuff going on and I just had to take some time from the internet. So thank you guys for hanging out and being great and allowing me to come and go into this group. Hey, Tony, how are you? I don't have time to go through all the questions right now. I have maybe 10, 15 minutes. I just wanted to come chat, but I was talking to some people about planning and I just thought I would tell you guys what I do. Now, I am not the most organized person in the world, right? So my friend Coraline that I work with, my assistant, if you're watching this, they will tell you, I'm not the most organized person in the world, right? But maybe if you're a creative or you're just looking, to know how a full-time person does it. I do also basically run 3 businesses at this point. So, it's like I'm not the most organized person in the world, but I also get a lot done. So I'll tell you guys what I do and how I kind of lay it out and how I organize it. So in the other thread, put a link for a freebie that I made, and it's a 90-day kind of goal setting planner. I do 90-day goals. Someone was asking me, I think it was Rebecca, was asking me, if I plan the whole year, and I don't. I plan 90 days out. I have 3 blocks at a time, right? So we're coming up to the end of Q4. I have December planned and I have in my mind what will happen in January, but I've got to sit down and do the next quarter. So I'll sit down probably next week and do January, February, March, right? And then I'll have those 90 days mapped out, and I just go 90 days at a time. I find when I try to plan further out than that, it's kind of a waste of time because things change, my goals change, what I feel like doing changes. You guys know I'm a very soul-aligned entrepreneur, right? So a lot of how I set my goals and stuff is what I feel like doing, what do I feel excited about, what do I feel called to talk about, and I don't always know a year from now what I'm gonna feel called to say. So my stuff is constantly changing, right? It's like a loose outline. So I use that 90-day spreadsheet. I have it as a freebie, but you can do it literally on anything. What I do is I have it broken down into 3 sections. So when I sit down to do Q1, I'll look at January, February, March, and then January is divided up into 3 sections: beginning, middle, and end. And so that's basically worked out to, roughly-ish 10-day blocks, beginning, middle, and end. So I know what I'm doing the beginning of January, the middle of January, the end of January, right? And then I go to February. What am I doing the first 10 days of February, the middle 10 days of February, the end of February, right? And then I do March, and I do it kind of like that. Before I start breaking it down, obviously I think about what my big outcome is. What am I working on? Usually the last couple quarters have been for me about filling out my product line, because I started to realize, I have a lot of free content, I have a lot of traffic, I have a lot of email subscribers, but I don't necessarily have a lot of things to sell them. And so, I started to fill out my product line this last quarter. Before that, my big goal for the quarter was traffic, right? Trying to get my traffic up. So, when I'm trying to get my traffic up, I'm writing posts like a maniac. That's when I'll start posting, twice a day, 3 times a day, all the time, right? I think I'm going to probably do a big push for SEO. So that will maybe be, I haven't looked at it yet, but that might be my goal for Q1, might be Google traffic. So, I would start setting my goals based on that, what I want my outcome to be. Does that make sense? And so I kind of use that 90-day planner to break down my big goals, right? I'm not breaking down my day-to-day tasks. I'm not scheduling the podcast on there. That's kind of to help me visualize what the big vision is, where do I need to be focusing? What am I trying to do? What's the big outcome for the next 90 days? Where do I want the business to be, by March? That's what I'll be thinking about, when I sit down, right? Not planning out the day-to-day tasks. But it's important to me that I have some kind of goal and I have some kind of vision and I know what the outcome is. I'm pretty good at being pretty focused as long as I have that vision in mind. When I don't have that, I will run around like an idiot, work on God knows what, do 1,000 different projects, and it just gets totally overwhelming. So picking like a big outcome really works well for me, and then doing 90-day blocks really works well for me. And I like to always feel like I'm pushing. I like to always feel like I'm on a deadline. I pretty much am never not on a deadline. I'm always on a deadline. I'm always on working on a goal, right? I'm always pushing. I always want to be pushing this business forward. And I like to work with a sense of urgency. And that's why I do 90-day goals instead of year-long goals, right? Because when I give myself a year, that it gives me too much time to mess around, right? So I would challenge you, instead of setting year-long goals this year, set them for 90 days and you'll be surprised. You can usually get the same outcome in 90 days if you work really focused than if you give yourself a whole year to mess around. Does that make sense? And so I really like to feel like I have that sense of urgency. And I talk about this in the 9-to-5 escape plan, but I think if you want to be your own boss and you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be able to put yourself on a deadline. You need to be able to hold yourself accountable. Like, I think that's a really valuable skill for you guys to start to develop. And it's hard. Like, I know it's hard, right? It's like, there's no consequences for me really of like doing this stuff or not doing this stuff. But if I want to get the business where I want it, I've got to be able to hit some deadlines, right? I've got to be able to push this thing forward. Otherwise, it's not going to grow. It's just going to stay stagnant. And the growth is really important to me, right? Because I want to reach more people. So that's how I do that. The other thing I use is Trello. So I have like 3 things. I have the 90-day spreadsheet, which is like my big goal, my big focus outcome for the quarter. And I just go quarter by quarter. And like I said, I gave you guys the exact template that I use. It's literally, and I live and die by that thing. I literally fill it out every quarter. So you guys can have that. It's not a secret. And then I use Trello. Now, the reason I use Trello is because I am an idea monster. I have at any given time, 20 ideas for courses I want to make, 50 blog posts, 100 podcasts I want to record. I have so many different things like jogging around in my brain. I do not let myself start a new project until the one I'm working on is finished. I have to be very disciplined about that, because what I will do is I'll start 5 different projects and never finish them. And that helps absolutely nobody. And it makes me kind of crazy, right? So I work on one project at a time. I'll start a course like the 9-to-5 escape plan, right? It's like, if I'm doing the 9-to-5 escape plan, when I was making that, there's no other project. It's like, that is the project. Like, even if I have the most brilliant idea in the world, I'm not going to start that until this is finished, right? So I'll kind of like move myself through like that. And that's kind of how I keep myself on task, more or less. But I use the Trello board to keep all those ideas, right? So if I have a course idea, if I have whatever it is, like I have, podcasts, course ideas, blog posts, future projects for the blog, right? If I want to do, I wanted to do a redesign, I want to like redo a new logo or whatever it is, I put all of that stuff on the Trello board under the appropriate list, right? And a lot of times it just sits there. I don't mess with it until I'm like looking at my content calendar, or I'm filling out the stuff that I'm doing for the week. I might look at that and pull some things out, but I kind of use that to organize my ideas. Does that make sense? And I like Trello because I can kind of visualize my ideas. The other thing I'll do on there that's really helpful is I just keep a list of any dates I need to remember. Like, I don't have that many launches that I do every year, but like the EBA launch, like I'm going to do the EBA launch. I do that launch every year, right? It's one of my favorite launches of the year. It's in March. I have it on my Trello board, right? If there's any launches like that where it's like, I know I'm going to be doing this, I'll just put it, it's just in order by date, like going down in a list on Trello. And then when I fill out my stuff for the month, or I'm looking at my planner, I'll stick it in there. And that way I just kind of have it in my mind. Or like the Ultimate Bundles launch, right? I have, every year basically like something in the productivity bundle that comes out in January. I'm going to do that launch every year, right? That launch has been on my calendar for like a year, right? I kind of know like those kind of things. And I'll do that too when I fill out my stuff for the quarter. What I will do is I'll fill my affiliate launches in first, because those launches can't be moved, right? So EBA can't be moved, right? I can't decide when that goes. So I'll put that, in my calendar, and then I'll schedule my launches kind of around that, because I can launch my products whenever I want, right? And I kind of know more or less what I'm launching for the whole quarter. I'll sit down and map it out. Like, I'm launching, I'm going to make this product, this month, and then I'm going to launch it this month, And I kind of do it like that, if that makes sense. And that's probably not relevant to a lot of you because you're probably kind of working on traffic and stuff. So the other thing I do, this is like, I swear this is like simple in my mind. It's not as like complicated as it sounds. What I do every day is I use these sheets. So these are Ruth Sukop's like daily do it sheets. And it's basically a to-do list that's prioritized. It's must do, should do, would like to do, others need from me, and that's it. It's basically just prioritizing your to-do list. So if you don't have these sheets, just write down your top 4 things that are the most important. Write down your next 4 things, you know, your should do's. Your next 4 things are your would like to do's. So you just it's just a to-do list prioritized. That's all it is. You don't need these sheets to do that. I like them. They're great. If you want to buy them, I think they're totally worth the money. I use this way more than any other planner. I fill these out every night. The reason I fill these out every night is when I wake up, I know what I'm doing. So I fill these out before I go to bed, my top 4 tasks, you know, all the way down, prioritize my to-do list. When I wake up, I work out, and then I attack this list. And I have usually clients at 9. So my goal is to work on this to-do list with urgency and get as much done. I want, you know, by 9 o'clock to have as many things as possible on this thing checked off and knocked out and done, right? And that's a really big key, I think, to my productivity, like, to be honest with you, because I'm just like, you know, I work out and then it's like, okay, like, you know, I think having the plan, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I know what I'm going to do before I wake up, right? I'm not planning months ahead. I don't know months ahead what I'm going to be doing, but I know the night before. And that for me, like, works, right? That's enough advance notice because I'm not a very organized person. So the night before, I write out my to-do list. I wake up, I work out, and then I sit down and I know exactly what to do. I start with that first thing. And I knock it off the list, and then I go to the next thing, and I knock it off the list, and I try to work with a sense of urgency to get these things done and to get through as much as I can of this list, right? And I think that is really like the key to my productivity. Like, that's really what I do. Like, it's not like any fancy secret, right? It's just having a plan, prioritizing, I think, is really important. What's the most important thing? Put it at the top of the list. When you wake up, get that done. Get that thing done. I'm going to have, you know, whatever it is, 2 tasks done, 3 tasks done before I go to work, or whatever your goal is, right? For me, it's 9 because I have to work with clients, but it's like, I'm going to have as much of this stuff done by 9 as possible. And I work with a sense of urgency. That's all I do. Like, that's basically it. I do like this planner I have. I'm still using the Happy Planner. I change my planners all the time. Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of like keeps me inspired and feels fun to me to use different planning systems. So I change it like every couple months, but I'm back on this, which is the Happy Planner. I really love it. It's really cool if you're like me and you're kind of like, I don't know, a disorganized creative. But it has like these sheets. You guys have probably seen this. They come in and out. So you can just move all these sheets around like that as you want. And then it has like this is a little mini to-do list. And then it has a monthly planner and a weekly planner. And you guys know what that looks like, right? I just fill out the monthly planner and the weekly planner. That's stuff that has to get done. I haven't been doing a lot of content planning because my life is bananas. When I do content planning, like, you know, and I suggest you guys do this. I strongly suggest if you're still working on your content and you're still trying to get traffic, that you have a content plan and you stick to it. Like, you know, you should know a couple weeks out, 3 weeks out, a month out, you know, how many blog posts you're doing, what day are they due, and what are they on, right? And you should be able to hold yourself to that schedule just to make sure you're getting the stuff out that you need to be getting out. I do all that kind of stuff in here when I'm doing that, which is not right now because my life is a chaotic disaster. But that's it. That's all I do. Hey guys, let's see. Does anybody need anything from me? I'm gonna hop off of here. I do have a lot of other stuff to go do, but I just wanted to talk about that because I was talking about it in the comments earlier, and I am gonna go through your guys' thread. I saw a bunch of you ask questions, and I will go through that. I just don't have time today, but I wanted to like say something to you. Think this might work better for me than goals for the year. Yeah, goals for the year don't work for me, but you know what works for me, and the reason I think I feel like I'm a pretty productive person. Like, even though I'm disorganized or whatever, I get a lot done. And it's because I work with a sense of urgency, right? It's because of that. I always want to feel like I'm on deadline. I always want to feel like I'm pushing. And the 90-day goals really does that for me. And you can get as much done in a year, like just kind of messing around or haphazardly working towards a goal. You can get as much done working on 90 days with urgency as you can working. You're not going to work for a whole year on one goal with urgency usually, right? I'm not like able to, maybe some people do, but I'm not able to do that. But if I'm like, okay, by March, this is my goal. This is what I have to have done. I know what I'm doing, the first part of the month, the middle part of the month, the end part of the month. I have 10 days to do it, and it's like go time, right? There's no messing around. There's really not any room for messing around. Now, life happens. This quarter, I can hit my goals, and let's talk about this. This is a good thing to talk about. I didn't hit my goals. I did not hit my goals. There is like no goal hitting happening, right? I was talking to Brianna, my assistant, earlier, and I was just like, I don't know, like things are doing what they're doing right now. It just is what it is. And it's fine. Like, I don't need to beat myself up about that. I don't need to feel bad about that. And you don't need to do that either. Like, you can give yourself grace. It's fine, right? So even though I work with a sense of urgency, I put myself on deadline. That doesn't mean that I beat myself up when I don't hit my goals. It doesn't mean that I'm in a spiral now that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? That's not what that means. You can work with a sense of urgency. You can put yourself on deadline. You can push, but just realize like sometimes you're not going to hit it and it's fine. Like I really am unattached. I'm like, the way I feel is like, I leave it all out on the field, right? That's a weird metaphor. Is that a sports metaphor? I leave it all on the table, right? I leave it all on the field. It's like, I play full out. And when I'm done, I'm done. And it's like, I did everything I could this quarter. I had a lot of personal things that I had to deal with that were important. And I know, like, even though I had to take a step back from the business, I still was playing full out. I left it all out on the field. Does that make sense? And so when I don't hit a goal, it doesn't matter to me because I'm like, I know I did everything I could. So I don't have to like beat myself up or go on this whole thing. I'm never going to be, people love to tell stories about this, right? When they don't hit their launch goals, somebody launches something and it fails and it's like, I'm never going to be able to do it. I made this thing and it didn't sell and so made all this money and I had this goal and I didn't hit it and my business is never going to work and my husband doesn't believe it's possible and blah, like telling all these stories, right? I don't tell any stories. I could tell stories about what that means, right? I could tell stories about like, I didn't get enough done and I don't work hard and my business isn't moving forward and this quarter was a disaster and everything's so hard. I could tell those stories about my business, right? But I'm not. I played full out. I left it all out on the field and it is what it is, right? You just move forward to the next quarter. I heard someone talking about this on a podcast and I thought it was really smart. She was like, she was talking about thinking like a CEO in your business. And she was like, people at like, I don't know, Johnson & Johnson, like big corporations are not launching one product and then telling all these stories about what that means, right? And we do this a lot with small businesses where it's like, we'll launch an ebook and no one buys it. And we're like, oh my God, my business is failing. I'm a failure. I can't do it, right? Johnson & Johnson puts out something and it doesn't sell. It's like, they're just going to launch something else. They don't tell any stories about what that means, right? So if I don't hit my goals, it doesn't mean anything about me as a person. It doesn't mean anything about my business. It doesn't mean any of that, right? So don't use your goal setting and working with a sense of urgency as an excuse to beat yourself up when you don't hit it. Because let me tell you, I do things that fail all the time. You guys probably know that. For EBA, I forget. Do I have to complete the course to get affiliate link to promote it? Yeah, and you have to apply. Email Maggie. I don't remember what it is, but it used to be that way. I think it still is. So you have to complete it and then you have to apply and take like a little, it's really easy, but it's just like a little course that they have you take. Faith, what planner sheets are you referring to? I came in late. Annie, they are the ones from Ruth Sukup. They're called the Daily Do It. She sells them on her Living Well Spending Less, like where she sells her planners. I don't know if you guys can see this at all. See, but it's like must do, should do, would like to do, ABC. It's really just a prioritized to-do list on one side, and then this other side has like blocks, right? So usually my first block is like exercise, journal, meditate. The next block is whatever the top 3 things are on my to-do list. The next block is like walking the dog, saying prayers, listening to podcasts. The next block is usually like clients, and then after that is like whatever I have to get done the rest of the day. But you don't need these sheets to do this. I know like someone was saying they live in Canada and they can't get them. It's literally just a prioritized to-do list. That's all it is. It's not, I like these and I use them. I'm almost out of them. Like I use them so much. I literally fill them out at night. I stick them on my journal or I stick them on my planner and I carry it around like this all day. It's just like on the front of my thing. And then this sits next to me at my computer. So, and I have my journal too. I have my journal and my planner and my to-do list sheet like next to me at my computer all day. And so I like these sheets because I just stick them on the top of my planner and then it's like I have it right here all day. So that's kind of how I do it. But yeah, I don't think they're like crazy expensive. They're definitely cheaper than getting like a planner or anything like that. And I do use the heck out of them. But like I said, you can do this in a notebook. It's literally the reason it works for me is because I know when I wake up what I'm doing. I have a plan. As long as you have a plan when you wake up, right? It's like, or when you're gonna work. When you sit down to work, you should know, like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, right? You should know when you sit down to work what your most important task is. There shouldn't be any like, what do I do? What's the most important thing? It's like, I don't engage with any of that. It's like, I just work through that list with a sense of urgency. I like try to attack that to-do list. I'm like, I want to get through as many tasks as possible. Okay. Yep. I actually have those. Yeah. I really like them. I mean, like I said, I change my planner system all the time. If you guys ask me a month from now what I'm doing, I'm probably going to be doing something different. This is kind of what I always come back to. I really like the to-do list thing. I really like doing that at night and then waking up and having that ready to go. And that seems to work really well for me. Like I said, I'm not someone that's going to plan my whole week out. Like, I was doing for a while, like Google time blocking, and that worked, but I just like the flexibility this gives me because it's like, I have the list and I can just do the tasks whenever I want, right? With Google Calendar, when I was blocking my time, it was like, this hour to this hour, you're podcasting. This hour to this hour, you're doing interviews. This hour to this hour, you're doing email. And you block out your whole week like that. And it's good, I guess, for productivity. But for me as a creative and just how I am, like, I don't work like a normal person, I feel like, to be honest with you. Like, sometimes I feel like my brain is just weird. I need like the flexibility. Like sometimes, I don't want a podcast. I want to go walk outside. I want to say prayers. I want to dance around. I want to, it's just, you never know at any given day what I'm going to feel like doing. And I like having that flexibility, but I like having the accountability of the to-do list because it's like, okay, I can mess around and do all those things, but I have to get these tasks done. Does that make sense? So it gives me like enough structure, but enough flexibility. And that works really well for me just because I'm someone that needs that kind of flexibility. And with everything going on, it's like any given day, I don't know what's going to happen on any given day. It is chaos. Life has been very chaotic. So, I could time block, but then it's kind of like, God laughs at your plans. Like, that's kind of how it feels to me right now. I am so like that. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's just me. I don't know. Maybe other people feel like that too. I'm just like, and I'm like, I obviously believe in like working hard and like building this business, but I always think too, I'm like, I did not work this hard like I've worked very, very, very freaking hard for the last 2 years, probably solid. I did not work this hard to not have a boss and then to be chained at my desk all day, right? I worked hard because I wanted the freedom to be able to take a break when I wanted and do yoga when I want and walk the dog when I want and like that kind of stuff. I think for a lot of people it doesn't matter, but it matters a lot to me, especially as someone like, with mental health and depression and anxiety and all this stuff. It's like, that is very, very important to me. And so I try to give myself the flexibility to do that, right? And I try to give myself permission to do that. And sometimes it feels really good for me to just lock myself in the office and work. Like sometimes I'll work 12, 14 hours a day. And that feels really good. And then other days I'll be like, it's really sunny out. I'm going to take the dog to the park. And that feels really good. You know what I mean? And it's like, as long as I have this list, and I more or less know what has to get done that day. It's like I can take 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour off. Like, who cares, right? And then I can come back. And because I don't have kids, and I don't have a partner, I have a lot more flexibility than a lot of people, because it's like, if it's a nice day out, I'll take the second half of the afternoon and go hang out and walk the dog and come back and work, at night if I want. And I really try to give myself the freedom and flexibility. And so I quit doing the time. It's such a long story. I can't tell a short story, to save my life. But the reason I quit doing the time blocking was because I felt like it was kind of caging me in a little bit too much. Does that make sense? And so I like the to-do list because it's like, I know what has to get done. I know what the priorities are, but I give myself the flexibility to kind of do it as I feel inspired to. I am a big believer in like knocking as much crap out as you can in the morning, because I feel like, for me anyway, I feel like as the day goes on, I get more distracted, I get less creative, and there's more crap happening. There's more people that need my attention, right? There's like clients on Skype. There's my family is calling, my mom is calling, the freaking UPS guy is coming. Those hours in the morning are like sacred to me. Like 6 to 9 is like go time. No one is needing me, no one is talking to me. Everything is like quiet, and it's like I like to knock out as much as I can between those hours, because I know kind of as the day goes on, right, it just gets more and more chaotic. Does that make sense? So it's like, this is my chance, right? It's like, this is my chance to like get things done before, people are needing my attention and I need to deal with stuff and like everything's going on. So I really, really, really am a big believer in those morning hours. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I gotta go. I gotta get on a call. I will go through and answer your questions. Maybe I'll try and do that tomorrow. God, Thanksgiving is Thursday, so it's Tuesday. Oh my Lord. Yeah, I'll try and do that tomorrow before I go out of town. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope you're well. If you have any questions for me, leave them in that thread and I'll answer them tomorrow. Okay, have a good night, guys.